everybody, good evening, and we're back for another special. As from what we have done last week in the Titanic video, we have decided to come back and react to the latest animated version of the Lusitania, created by the amazing Jack Gibson, who is not with us tonight, but we can actually see that he's done a really good job with it. So I'm joined here today with Hannah, DK, Jake, and our newest member, Historic Productions. Guys, welcome, and it's a pleasure to have you on board once again. And I think without further ado, even though it's going to be an 18-minute long video to watch over time, I think we'll just make a start. So Hannah, when you're ready, you can press play. And just remember, if anyone has any questions or if anyone has like things they want to add on, don't forget to put your hand up in the chat, the hand emoji. And yeah, and then I'll just come and unmute you or unmute yourselves if you want it. So we're starting off with the animation. This is the 7th of May 1915, and the Lusitania is making her way to Liverpool following her following her voyage from New York a few days prior. But unfortunately, she's entering in a war zone, and the captain of the Lusitania didn't have the track record to have. That's not the best track record to steer the ship all of the time. But Jake, I'll let you start to begin with, really, because you know about that very well.
Hello. Yeah. The problem with Captain Turner is that he was blamed for not zigzagging during the crossing into the war zone. And he also steered his ship towards land. He steered his ship, I think it was like 83 degrees to the east. Because when U-Boat 20 spotted the Lusitania, they were not going to take a shot because she was just too far away, and there was no way of catching her. But by luck for the U-20 is that the Lusitania suddenly changed direction, and the reason being is because Captain William Turner had lost his bearings. There'd been a fog early in the morning, and he slowed his ship down to around 15 knots, and then he brought his ship back up to 18 knots when the fog had lifted. But by this time, he'd lost his bearings. He thought he was further ahead than he actually was, and to get his bearings, he had to bring the ship closer to land so he could see where he was. And it turned out that he shouldn't have done that because he'd been warned that U-boats were patrolling the coast, and that's where U-boats tend to patrol. And by chance, the U-20 they fired a G-type torpedo at the Lusitania, but they broke rules. They were not supposed to fire straight away. They were supposed to fire a warning shot at Lusitania to warn them that they were going to be attacked, to allow passengers and crew to abandon the ship before the ship is attacked. And U-20 went ahead and fired upon the Lusitania. So basically that's it.
We just saw the explosion there. DK, you had your hand up in the Discord chat. Do you have anything else to add?
Yes, I also like to note that the Lusitania was supposed to get an escort ship to Liverpool, but unfortunately, the Admiralty actually kind of value their warships over an ocean liner, and of course, yes, the Lusitania was supposed to do a zigzagging, and they were also supposed to get an escort as well, but unfortunately that never happened. And of course, that secondary explosion that we just saw, where the torpedo struck, just after the bridge and underneath where the first funnel is, the second explosion, we don't know what happened to it. Others may speculate that it was actually a coal dust ignition, and again, we never know.
speculating earlier about what that second explosion actually means, but we are looking now that the list is going very heavily, and a lot of people are now scrambling away across to the lifeboats. But as we all know, that it took Captain Turner 10 minutes to realise that the ship was sinking, even though some of the passengers knew, okay, we've got to abandon ship and get to the nearest lifeboats. And it's a bit of a rush, stampede, chaos, and as we all know, it's really not going to go down well. Now, I have done a video on the Lusitania's lifeboats, but we'll probably get to some of the information about them, but not all of them, because it will be too many to count in the video. So, Historic Productions, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I'd like to add a question. What happened to most of the lifeboats that happened on the Lusitania? Did they fall off, or it was hard to launch them?
Actually, I did mention that there are some boats. So the boats on the starboard side were launched successfully, but they were either just launched a bit down, overturned, or hung upside down. But on the port side, things didn't really go too well, especially since they had to slide and they bumped against the hull of the ship. But of course we will see this in the animation video. But Historic Productions, thank you so much for that question. That is absolutely a good one to do. And I definitely think, from what we can see now, do you know, Jack's done such an amazing job with this. When I first watched it, I couldn't believe my eyes, really. I was just very blown away by it. But I know this is Historic Productions' first time seeing this, which I didn't even realise. But okay, so we're going to the stage now where the impact is going to go to a heavy list, and by this time, from what we can see, lifeboat number 5 is gone, and it's because U-20, the impact from U-20 completely destroyed it, and it was splintered into pieces. But DK, holding your Lusitania model now, even though we can't see during the recording, can you describe to us about either the list or the lifeboats for us?
Alright, basically for the starboard side, it was actually very hectic to try to get all the lifeboats lowered out, but the port side is just considered useless because the listing was so bad now. You can actually visualize right now with my hand on the model as well. Basically, if anybody were to try to get in the lifeboats, they would have been spilled out. Like, Lusitania was already built to hold a lot of lifeboats on board, but considering of the list and the factors, basically, it's not easy.
It's just you can see with the people, everyone's just scrambling in. And Jake, do you want to add something to this?
Yeah, I just want to add about why is Lusitania listing so far over and so quickly. Partially it's to do with the bulkhead design. The bulkhead design was, I say, flawed. The reason why she's listing so hard and so quickly is that Lusitania was built with longitude compartments and transverse compartments, watertight compartments. Any two compartments flooded she'd be able to stay afloat she'd stay afloat. That's what she was. She was a two bulkhead ship, design ship, where she would be able to stay afloat. Not like Titanic, where she could flood up to 4. The other thing is, if the Lusitania did take on water, it would list the ship, and you could not transfer that water anywhere else on the ship. So, in a way, the bulkheads were a poor design. The other thing as well is that they used the longitude compartments, watertight bulkheads, as coal bunkers as well. Not like Titanic, where it'd be separated into coal bunker and then compartment. Lusitania was the bulkheads were used as coal bunkers as well. which would also cause difficulty for the crew to be able to shut the watertight doors because you would have coal in the way. The other thing is coal. What coal does is it actually absorbs water, actually sucks in water, which then could also add weight to the vessel. So what's happening with the Lusitania now is that she's in a very, very bad way. This is why she possibly sank so quickly. Also with the secondary explosion, whatever that second explosion was, it tore her inside. You know, structurally she was compromised. It was also reported that some portholes were left open on the ship, which then also compromised the ship as well. So, yeah.
And as we can see now, we're probably about 5 minutes into the sinking since the impact, from what we can see now. And as you can see, like from the funnels, only the first 3 funnels are like they're punching off very, very dark smoke from the funnels. Now this is at the point really where loads of things have been shut down. Historic Productions, what have you got to add?
Yeah, I also have another question. Why would Cunard send out the Lusitania when there was a war, like send passengers onto the ship and bring them out to other countries, like different places, while war is still going on?
Actually, DK, do you want to answer this question? I know you got your hand up in the chat.
Yeah, I can answer this one. Basically, Lusitania and Mauritania were built like warships. The reason why is because they actually spent money on helping Cunard build these ships. However, in a time and event of war, like for example World War I and later World War II with the Aquitania, the British Admiralty can requisition these ships so that way they could become either auxiliary cruisers, like the Lusitania's case, a troop ship and a hospital ship for the Mauritania and the Aquitania. Only the Aquitania, to this very day, actually survived both world wars and didn't live to see throughout the 50s.
The Mauritania had such a fascinating career, and given that I'd done a previous video on her, oh man, that was just such a beautiful one. Okay, so this is the point where I've got to jump in, because this is the thing that really shocked us all when we first watched it, and this was a collision, or an incident, properly, between lifeboats number 11 and 9. And from what we can see in the animation now, lifeboat number 9 is just being lowered. And at this time, lifeboat number 9 is the one that was launched successfully, but because of the way it was lowered, it wasn't going to be safe. And yeah, and DK said in the chat it's similar to lifeboats 13 and 15 on the Titanic. That's absolutely right. And unfortunately, with lifeboat number 9, it got caught in the ropes and it wasn't launched. Well, it was in the sea, but for some reason, I think Jack's actually put the description in the chat. I definitely know what's there, but I think the ropes and all of that, it got stuck and the boat wasn't able to move. And then lifeboat 11 is just coming down to the sea, and not everyone is realizing that lifeboat number 9 is right on top, is right below lifeboat number 11. And we're just going to actually watch this just right now. See, lifeboat number 11 hits number 9, crushing people. Either the occupants in lifeboat number 9 were injured or instantly killed, and lifeboat number 9 just sinks in the sea and it's lost along with the Lusitania. Now, I did not know that this happened, and neither did everyone else really, and it was a bit of a shock that it happened, but it just goes to show how much of chaos it was. And it was the same for Lifeboat 18, because it was full of people, but it swung actually back onto the deck and it skidded on the deck, crushing people to death or knocking them off their feet during the sinking. But I cannot begin to tell you that if you were on a lifeboat on a Lusitania, it will be... I've got no words to say for it. I definitely got no words to say for it. Still do. Jake!
Yeah, I just want to talk about some of the characters that are on board Lusitania, because obviously we're talking about the ship, but the people are just as important. There was a guy on board called Charles Frohman, and Charles Frohman was a famous theatrical producer, and he was the very first person to actually put Peter Pan on Broadway. So he made the story as famous as it is now, because he was the first one that really brought it to the public, other than it being in a book. And Frohman, he had problems with ligament, and a ligament issue from a fall that he had suffered about, I think it was like 3 months ago, 3 months before he boarded the Lusitania. And he walked with a walking stick, and he actually called it his wife. That's how connected he was. With this stick, he just called it his wife. And during the voyage, he wouldn't leave his cabin. He wouldn't leave his cabin. He'd stay in his cabin. He'd entertain in his cabin. And during the sinking, there was another lady called Rita Gillivet, who was a French-American actress, who would later go and star in a film about the sinking of the Lusitania. And she was kind of frightened about U-boats and the sinking because she couldn't swim. And she kept a little pistol in a drawer, and she was going to use it to shoot herself in case the ship was going to be sunk. She didn't use it. She didn't commit suicide. She was also travelling with her brother-in-law. Obviously Charles Frohman and Rita had maybe come across each other during their careers, and Charles Frohman seemed very like he wasn't panicking. He was very collected, and Rita remembers it like it was like he was producing one of his shows. He was that calm. He actually gave one of his life belt to another passenger, and he held on to Rita's hand and he said, "Hold on, girl. You're gonna be all right." And as they were hanging on, the promenade was just about to go under. And Rita remembers how the suction from the ship, or the water coming onto the deck, actually sucked her out of her own shoes. That's how strong it was. And she was the only one out the five to survive the disaster. Rita recollects Charles Frohman saying, "Why fear death? It's the greatest adventure life gives us." He paraphrased his favourite line from his favourite show, Peter Pan. And he didn't survive. And neither did the brother-in-law. Rita was the only one to survive out the disaster. So, that's some of the characters that were on board.
Yeah, you got your hand up.
Alright, this was at the moment where William Turner got swept out of the bridge, because he was originally going to stay on board, but instead he got swept out, and that's the reason why he did survive. And of course, the testimony with him and all, and basically the Admiralty tried to scrutinize him for not following orders, even though that he did whatsoever.
I can see a lot of hands going up in the chat right now. Hannah, do we have a Hannah? Yep, you had your hand up first.
Yes, we do. Yeah, I noticed something. Now, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard that Lusitania's propellers never stopped all the while she was sinking. whereas in this animation they are stopped.
Good point. Can anyone actually make a comment on that? I don't really think so, but I think we're just in the final plunge anyway. Jake and Historic Productions, you both got your hands up first. Historic Productions, do you want to go first?
I wanted to know why were Lusitania's propeller blades a different shape in the pitch of it? Like what was the difference on them?
Jake?
To other things?
Oh, sorry. Jake?
Yeah, it's just the design. It could be due to more efficiency when it comes to less vibrations and speed and things like that. Pitch can sometimes make a difference with, because Lusitania in her career suffered with a lot of vibrations, so it could have been just an alteration to prevent so much vibration in the stern area. So sometimes the pitch can make a massive difference in that case.
To the final plunge now, and as you can see, all the funnels are going to go under. Well, the first and the second funnel have just gone under, third is about to, and then fourth is just going to, and then all you can see in the water is the stern. Jake, again.
Yeah, just to go back, there was a gentleman on board called, he was the actual assistant telegraphist who, one of the wireless men, who actually took a photograph of the sinking. He came out on deck. A few people actually recollect seeing him do it. He came out on deck. He had to kneel down onto the deck because the ship was slanted so far over that he had to correct it, to get his balance. And he got out his Kodak pocket camera and took a long shot of the sinking. Unfortunately, when he went into the water, the camera went in and the film did not survive the sinking, so that photograph was never published. So,
but I definitely think we've just gone to the end credits. I can't believe how fast it's actually gone, but oh wow, as you can see, Jack did such a good job. And if you would like to follow Jack, I will leave the video and the YouTube channel in the description box down below. And DK mentioned in the chat, Lusitania sank in 93 meters depth of water, and the ship was only 787 feet long. Yeah, that's a really good point, DK. Yeah, so even though we don't have enough time really, but it's been really great fun actually, and it was actually quite enjoyable with everyone being here. So thank you, DK, Jack, Historic Productions, and especially our lovely Hannah for coming on today. And Hannah, thank you so much for the recording as well. Definitely had fun, and we cannot wait to catch everyone very soon, and hopefully it will be very soon next time that we do this. So yeah, have a good night everybody, and take care. Bye. Say bye everybody.
Bye.
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 Bye.